transfer window, talking about Liverpool and Fabio Carvalho and how a fee had been agreed with the Fulham superstar, and how that was just a matter of time. Could Liverpool get the deal done? A race against time to get it done. All the major journals saying, it was agreed, but they had to get it done in time. Now, that has not been the case, and there are a number of journalists reporting to that fact. Neil Jones of goal.com reporting at 9 minutes past 11 p.m. tonight, Liverpool's deal for Fabio Carvalho has fallen through. David Lynch also there at 9 minutes past 11. Liverpool's move for Fulham midfielder Fabio Carvalho is off. Transfer hinged on the player being loaned back for the remainder of the season, but there are no deal sheets in the EFL, and an agreement wasn't finalised by the 11 p.m. deadline. So there you go. Apparently it was just too much to get done in too short an amount of time. The true ins and outs of that we'll never truly know, or maybe more of that will come to light tomorrow in the cold light of day or what have you. But yeah, what we know right now is that it doesn't look like it's possible. And what you find a lot in these things is the Fulham would have been dragging their heels maybe to some extent. But it's what's interesting, of course, is that by all accounts it was agreed, and it just became a timing thing. So yeah, now one thing, a note of, I guess, optimism from Liverpool's perspective in this comes in the form of Paul Joyce, who has tweeted the following. He says, Liverpool did not complete Fabio Carvalho deal with Fulham by deadline. However, if all parties agree, there can still be a pre-agreement for the player to move to Liverpool in July. There is no immediate time pressure for that agreement to be reached. So this doesn't necessarily mean the deal is dead in the water, although it will certainly test Liverpool's position on this, who are, we surmised that kind of said we want to get this done in January or not at all. Now, as mentioned there, you can, of course, do deals. If that's all agreed, you can just say, he's just going to join us at the end of the season if they're happy with that. But it's whether Fulham felt they were, I don't know, sort of coerced or bargained into a situation, and they might just fancy turning around and say, you know what, actually we'll take our chances with the tribunal at the end of the season, or, we'll see if there's any other better offers that kind of come our way in the next couple of months. We'll have to see on that. But yeah, what a mad roller coaster of a window. And it's funny because it's, the incredible optimism that we should be feeling after the Diaz transfer feels like it's been undercut because some kid that we weren't even going to have this season hasn't gotten over the line. Weird, funny, but that's how it is. It's a bit like when, the difference between you can win 5-1, but if the one that they scored gets scored the last goal of the game, then it does just, it's a little slight pin in the balloon and optimism and what that and all that kind of stuff. Like, so yeah, annoying, not quite the end we were all sort of hoping for, to be perfectly honest. We've got another one here then from David Lynch, who again, I think he's going to follow on the same lines as Paul Joyce, but this is just coming in right now, 28 minutes past 11. So this is the hottest of hot news on this one. David Lynch, Liverpool now hoping to reach an agreement to sign Fabio Carvalho when his contract expires in the summer. Fulham will be due compensation for developing the player, but if the two clubs can agree a fee, they can avoid going through a tribunal process. So yeah, so that's one thing there that, as we talked about, if they can get that deal agreed in the coming days, hours, weeks, whatever, then it will reduce the need to go to tribunal, and that means that, and again, you would imagine if they've already agreed this fee, then they've already agreed the fee. So they say this is just, I guess, a matter of box ticking. But anyway, if you're just joining us, yeah, Carvalho will not be getting agreed tonight. He was never going to be joining Liverpool as it was. A good comment there. You've got a friend in me says, wasn't meant to be. But well, we say that. Wasn't maybe meant to be in the here and now. But what we're seeing from David Lynch and what we're seeing from Paul Joyce is that there's a very reasonable possibility here that it'll just get boxed in due course. This wasn't a player that Liverpool were going to be bringing in. It wasn't going to be looking to play against Cardiff, and he wasn't going to be playing for Liverpool at all for the rest of the season. But obviously the idea was that it was meant to be just sorted for down the line. He was going to go back on loan to Fulham. Now we know the loan side of things they couldn't get across. And what we're reading between the lines, or what's being said here, is that although you can have deal extensions in the Premier League, those things don't exist in the Championship or for the English Football League, the rest of the pyramid. So as much as they wanted to try and get the deal done, Fulham couldn't ask for an extension. Liverpool could, and so the loan back part fell down, which meant ultimately the deal was done. Now, in typical fashion, we've seen a lot of conflicting things. There was a lot of stuff saying the contract was all agreed and the medicals were done and blah, blah, blah. Some people saying the medicals needed to be done. But the point of it is that, the paperwork ultimately couldn't get done to get this ratified tonight. But yes, again, so as we're saying here, once again, just to reiterate, David Lynch saying Liverpool hoping to reach an agreement to sign Fabio Carvalho when his contract expires in the summer. Fulham will be due compensation for developing the player, but if the two clubs can agree a fee, they can avoid going through the tribunal process. So yeah, it's all going to start to kick off, and we'll see loads more of this, I imagine, tomorrow when the dust is settled and there's a bit more time, everyone's had a bit of sleep and they can dig into this and get to the bottom of it. We'll be trying everything in our power to find out a little bit more about that. We'll speak to some of our contacts in the journo world and see what we can dig up for you guys tomorrow. But yeah, I literally was just happily sat on the couch, catching up on the latest episode of whatever that new Sex and the City series called. It's fine, by the way, absolutely fine. Catching up with misses I've not seen a lot of, and then boom, 40 minutes talking about a transfer that ultimately never happened, but hopefully it does. I mean, look, it is one of those things, and just to kind of leave it on a positive note. To the point, Luis Diaz, tremendous piece of business that Liverpool have done there, boxing a player who can impact what we're doing here. In fact, Coach Dom Abramo saying, thoughts on Diaz deal, Paul? Will he feature right away? There's a possibility that he plays against Cardiff. I think that might be a bit too soon, but the good point is that we've got him, he's agreed, he's sorted, he will be training with Liverpool, he will be getting up to speed with how we play. And Klopp's talk about how midfielders take a while to get up to speed and defenders can take a while to speed because of the complexity of how Liverpool play, because they're the foundations for Liverpool's attack and play. Forwards can slot in a little bit more quickly, so look, I wouldn't be shocked to see him involved. And the good thing is he can play in the Champions League because they changed the rules over and being cup tied, so now that you can play in the later stages of the Champions League, so that's a really interesting thing. So yes, we're going to see plenty of Luis Diaz, and we've got a very exciting player. I just can't wait to get to see him, properly. Yeah, AXA doing all the general stuff, all the training photos of them laughing at man, that boss new green training gear, get some official photos, get the AXA lead, whatever the new thing is, and just see him out on the pitch at Anfield. It'd be lovely if it was the weekend, but it might be a bit too soon. If not, then we're looking beyond that. Leicester potentially is an opportunity for him to get his debut. But yeah, it's not too far away, certainly. But yeah, hopefully before too long, Liverpool will have another wonderful player amongst their ranks. And what does it mean for the likes of Minamino or whatever? At this point, who cares? Liverpool have got 4 competitions to try and win this season, and the more bodies that can help them towards that, the better. So what they've done there with Diaz's boss, it's disappointing, the Carvalho stuff. And I said, this is the problem sometimes when we do this to ourselves. And I've just contributed to it because I like to get carried away. I'm an emotional person. It's always looking at the next. And this was lined up, it was next. We've done Diaz's box, Diaz is cool. But there's this other kid, and I ended up more excited for the transfer of a 19-year-old who was going to be coming in the summer than the £50 million Colombian international goal-scoring, pacey, tricky, angry winger. Who is actually a Liverpool player. Ryan Hostetler, you got me all excited and hard and then blue balled me, mate. And have lasting damage from this one. Yeah, well, you know what? If you need to go and drain the main, go and do it, mate. But unfortunately, I don't offer those services. Over Redmen Plus, though. No. Yeah, sounds. Thank you, by the way, to Damon and Leach, who tagged me in Neil Jones's tweet when the Fabio Carvalho has fallen through just down here. That was absolutely lovely. But yeah, someone saying it's amateurish, it's leaving it late. I mean, I don't agree. The thing is about all this stuff is that and again, I don't know all the ins and outs, but there's so many moving parts to this, and this is why I agree in so much as it's always a bit daft leaving things to deadline day, because you enter into a world where this can happen. But look, at the end of the day, it's not a major piece of transfer business for Liverpool. And also, there's a little bit of, I'll give you a great example of it. Are you the kind of person who did or does your homework on a Friday night, or do you do it on a Sunday night / Monday morning on the way into school? There's a pressure that comes with having to have something done, and that works from like the motivation factor, but also in a bargaining position. It just adds a little bit more to, putting a bit of pressure on the player, putting a bit of pressure on Fulham, increasing your bargaining position, brinksmanship. And the beauty is with this deal is Liverpool got done the business they wanted to get done. This was seen as, I think, as a nice little added bonus. We shouldn't even be discussing this. This should have been done in another world. This is all done behind closed doors, under the table, and we'd never know it. And that's the deal on this one, is that if this was a player that Liverpool needed and they sacked it off and they cocked it up, yeah. So actually someone mentioned the Konoplyanka thing. So it's interesting. The true story of the Konoplyanka thing's never ever come out, actually. Then again, but it is actually quite similar to that. And it's funny that sometimes these things just happen. There's a lot of moving parts in transfers. And you have to rely on everyone to do their job. So yeah, right, let me just see, I think we've got another little update from James Pearce of The Athletic, and another good friend of ours. I'll be speaking to James for a podcast at the back end of this week. James Pearce, the two clubs could agree that the fee they belatedly agreed today will now be the compensation this summer when Carvalho is out of contract. That would mean a tribunal isn't required. Either way, the player wants to join LFC. Well, there you go. There's a nice little positive to end on. And I think that's true. I think, Carvalho clearly wants to play for Liverpool. Liverpool clearly interested. Liverpool clearly and Fulham clearly have a measure of each other in terms of what they want to do on the deal. So it shouldn't be fine. It shouldn't be difficult. A good comment here from Albie saying, Paul will snap him up tomorrow behind closed doors. Big bonus to him and his family if he commits to us and arrives in 5 months. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, to be honest. And that's one of those things, is that it's a shame that if we'd just done this a couple of days ago and then you do the Diaz stuff, or this falls through and something else moves on, we wouldn't be asked. So again, a very, very exciting talent, no doubt. And I'm sure Liverpool will do something down the line. Or they won't, and they'll buy someone else who goes on to be brilliant, because we've got a really good track record of doing that. I mean, Kostas Tsimikas, great example of that. There was a little concern when we didn't get our first target. Can't remember what his name is now. He went Jamal Lewis. There we go, Jamal Lewis, and everyone absolutely adores Kostas Tsimikas. Then Timo Werner didn't go through, and people were really upset and worried about that. And then we signed Diogo Jota, and he's just the absolute best. So yes, anyway, deal is not dead, but the deal will not be getting completed on deadline day, which would have been, as I say, Liverpool are this amazing, moist, wonderful, nicest cake you've ever had in your life. Transfers on top of now, Liverpool are performing, and the stuff, the icing, sugar, and all that kind of stuff. And then Diaz was the nice cherry, and this was just a little sprinkle of chocolate or whatever on top. And unfortunately, it's not quite happened in that regard. So we've gotten hyped. Maybe we just need to part that hype for a bit and return our hype. Let's just rewind the hype, everyone. Rewind the hype to a couple of days ago, and remember that Liverpool are on forefront fighting for trophies, and we've signed Luis Diaz. Let's just pretend nothing else happened after that. Yeah, should we agreement? Should we all shake on it? Should we all shake on that and just say, yeah, all agreed? Shake, everyone shake. Yeah. Let's just shake and pretend that nothing happens after the Diaz transfer was completed. Anyway, right, I am going to bed. But yeah, and you should do too. We'll have more on this tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been wild, absolutely wild. The Mighty Reds are absolutely awesome, but not so awesome that they can bend space and time, it appears. Shame. Maybe next year. Thank you so much. Yes, if you want more from us, do check out Redmen Plus. It is our Liverpool streaming service, and it is free for a month. All the Diaz stuff is still there. If you want to find out more about Carvalho as well, that's still there as well. Use the code Diaz, get a Club Captain subscription, free for an entire month, and have a wonderful night, a wonderful morning tomorrow, and loads more free content to come for us on YouTube. If you don't want to get involved with Plus, that's entirely up to you. But yes, anyway, good luck to Fabio Carvalho as well. I hope he's fine. These things get forgotten about sometimes in our mad rush over transfers and all that stuff. Hopefully the boy's okay, and hopefully he does end up a Liverpool player. And there is still a hope and chance of that. Let me just check there's nothing more before I go, because literally it went from being it might get done to off 3 seconds after I finish the last stream. No, no more for me tonight. Can't do that again. Right, all the best. Up the Reds. See you in the morning. Bye.